If you're like me and have a very rudimentary American mindset, then you've always wanted a house. And more specifically, you've wanted a house with a garage in it to call your own. My fiance and I were finally able to afford a house, even in this super expensive market. And the first thing I wanted to do was change the garage, of course, because I spend so much time in there. A two-part epoxy is an upgrade to any garage floor, and we will get into the reasons why that is later. But first, let's go into a little bit of a step-by-step on what I'm doing. First, I had to get the floor completely clear of any objects, so I had to get all the stuff and junk off of the ground that came with moving, and that included putting some stuff outside that could not fit inside in the basement. Then I moved on to getting some of this adhesive off of the ground. I just used a heat gun and razor blade for that. Then I also noticed that some spots left some high spots of concrete, so I angle grinded those down just with a normal flap wheel, and then I also kind of cleaned up some of the adhesive spots with that same flap wheel. Next was a quick sweep and leaf blow to get all the large dust and dirt particles out of there. The first benefit to having epoxy floors is simply the appearance. They look so much better than a normal concrete floor, and when you add some flake in and color, they just make the floor absolutely pop and look amazing. Preparation is the key to any paint job, and even though this is a two-part epoxy, it is still technically paint, so we're going to spend a lot of time prepping here. After all the large particles were gone, it was pretty easy to just use some dish soap and a stiff bristle brush to kind of agitate the floor and then wash it away with some water and a hose. And then I also etched the floor. This came in the Rust-Oleum kit that I used. You can see that in the little pail that I am using. And here we are. The floor is completely cleaned and etched. Unfortunately, still a little wet. I did all this yesterday, but I will have to come back tomorrow and do the painting. It's starting to look really good. I really recommend even just cleaning your floor, even if you don't do epoxy. Now that the floor is dry, we can move on to actually mixing the epoxy. I then went right on to just masking off the drywall and trim. Charlie's actually doing this as well. And I did this because the kit gives like a 30-minute time period for you to kind of let it set up after mixing. The kit really is great, and it shows everything that you need to do. This one is from Rust-Oleum. I definitely recommend the two-part over the one-part. I believe it's a lot harder instead of just like a normal paint. But as you can see here, Charlie and I are just filling in all the cracks with a brush and doing all the edges with the brush and then rolling it on. Right after rolling it on, I recommend throwing the chips on there, because if not, they will not stick if you wait a little bit, even like a few minutes. I recommend throwing those chips on right away. Now is the perfect time to give Charlie a huge shout out. She really killed it on this, put up with my attitude and my perfectionism throughout this. And I really recommend, if you are going to be doing this, definitely find someone to help you out. I was just lucky enough to get a really good person to help me. I mean, this is her house too, but moving on. The actual best benefit of an epoxy floor is actually the liquid resistance. Water will beat up really easily, and it's so easy to mop, and as well as oils and other chemicals. This is very good and resistive to those. My old apartment garage got destroyed, and that was simply because it had no coating on it. A second ago, you saw me peel up the tape while the paint was still wet. I highly recommend this, even with normal paint. Paint bonds to itself pretty well, and when you pull up that tape and it's dry, it can actually chip off. And here we finally have it. This thing is looking amazing. I'm really enjoying having it. We can finally pull in our cars, but I have not quite yet. I think it's after around 3 days, but I've waited about 4. We did run out of chips slightly in this little section. This is the last section I did, and you can tell that there's slightly less chips. Not a big problem, but it's definitely there. And yeah, this just looks amazing. I already got a couple of other things in, and I'm super excited about it. While we watch these finish shots, I just want to talk on some of the downsides of the epoxy floors. First of all, they can get very slippery with any kind of liquid on them. Water will even make them pretty slippery. The flakes do help with this, and I actually loaded up a lot of flakes on the stairs. Secondly, if I want to do any welding, I have to lay down something over these so that slag doesn't hit it and burn it, because it is pretty bad with molten metal. Cannot really think of any more downsides. If you have any more ideas on what would be bad about epoxy floors, please let me know down below.
And here we finally are. I'm actually using the garage a couple of weeks later for the first time.
And I'm absolutely loving this floor right now. Here's the project I'm working on. It is actually my new / old to me Mazda 3. I had this in high school and I just recently bought it back from my parents for just a commuter. So I'm just doing a simple rotate and oil change on this. Right now I do have some cardboard under the jack stand, just kind of protect it, but I think those are working well. And then the jack, I've been jacking up on both sides on the pinch welds, and it's doing really well. I did spill a bunch of oil, even though I have some cardboard, it sprayed all over. And this stuff is just super easy to clean up. That's just been wiped, but I'll just wipe that again and it will be completely cleaned and good to go. As you probably saw, this thing needs some help here, so let me know if you want to see that on the channel. Also, I had my dad kind of help me out over the weekend, do some drywall, so look forward to the videos coming up. I think we're going to be painting the walls soon and doing some organization, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I think that's all that I have for you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. See ya.